So, welcome back. We have been talking about the first logic that we are discussing, which is propositional logic. We discussed the notion of atomic sentences and compound sentences or well formed formulas, and we saw as to how you can construct more sentences. The next stage is that if you want to talk about truth values, how are the truth values of sentences related? And we have been saying that truth values, which is or the meaning, whether its sentence is true or not, is based on the meaning of the or the semantics of the connectives. So, this is what we are going to do now. So, we say that there is a valuation function. What is a valuation function? It takes any element belonging to this function we will call as V. It takes element any atomic sentence, which is basically a proposition symbol, and it will map it to true or false. So, which means, for example, I could write something like this, that value of q is equal to true. So, I take every symbol and say that it is either true or it is false. So, this is a mapping from the set of symbols to this set, which is a two valued set. Those two values we are calling true and false, and this is what the valuation does. It says that okay, P is true, Q is false, R is false, and so on, whatever the case may be. So, there could be of course many valuations. If there are n symbols, there would be 2 raised to n valuations, but that is what the valuation function does essentially. Now, note that it is not that the user is going to specify this essentially. So, the user may specify the truth values of certain other sentences, which we will call as the input knowledge base, the set of premises or the set of axioms. We saw Frege's axioms, they are not propositions, right, but they are like complex formulas. So, often the input knowledge base is a collection of atomic and compound formulas, and then the task is ki, okay, I tell you that all this is true, then I ask you about some particular sentence, saying that is that sentence true. That is what we are concerned with logic essentially, that given some things which are true, what else is true. But what we can do is define the semantics of all formulas using the semantics of the logical connectives. So, for example, we can say if alpha is true and beta is true, then the expression alpha and this AND symbol and beta will be true, will evaluate to true. So, when you say value of this is true or value of otherwise value of this is false essentially. Now, you can see that this condition is essentially describing the truth table in a succinct form essentially. I mean, this is what you would have done in the truth table, that you would have said, okay, alpha is true, beta is true, alpha and beta is true, alpha is false, beta is true, alpha and beta is false, alpha is false, alpha is true and beta is false, then alpha and beta is false. So, those 4 rows you would have described like that. This is just another way of describing the same truth table, and you can see that the fact that we have used this particular symbol is only incidental. It is of course very convenient to use a symbol that we are calling and therefore, the semantics of and is clear to us that both must be true, only then is the compound formula true. But it is not that connection, as I was saying, is subtle essentially. You must keep in mind that you could have just used a different symbol while constructing the truth table, and you could have used a different symbol in the language that we are defining, where the binary connective symbols are there, but you could still establish the connection between the notion of the semantic notion of and, that both constituents must be true, and the well formed formula which uses that connective essentially. So, of course, it is so much easier to simply say I will use the same connective in the truth table and also here, but it's like we are overloading the symbol, and you must be aware of that essentially. So, in general, when we talk about formulas, so we have this language that we have constructed. We started with our atomic sentences, let us say PQR, and then we constructed more compound formulas. We use the different logical connectives and keep adding new formulas. So, are these, how can we talk about the truth values of these formulas? So, in general, the entire set of sentences in propositional logic can be categorized as three kinds of formulas. The first kind, which we have been talking about already, is the set of tautological formulas or the set of tautologies. These are formulas which are true for every valuation, that the formula may be having some 5 variables or 10 variables or 10 propositions symbols, it does not matter. Whatever valuation you give to those constituents, propositional variables, propositional symbols, the formula will be always true. So, whatever the valuation that you choose, remember that what the valuation says, P 1 is true, P 2 is false, P 3 is true, and so on. You can choose whatever. Every such choice is a valuation function. What we are saying for tautologies is that you, irrespective of what valuation you choose, you can let P be anything, Q be anything, R be anything, our formula will always be true essentially. So, these are called tautologies. Of course, you know by now that there are simple formulas, for example, P or not P. Whether P is true or whether P is false, this formula will always be true essentially. Of course, this has only one proposition symbol, but this holds for everything essentially. So, this Venn diagram that I am trying to draw is this set of tautologies essentially. Then there is another set of formulas which are called satisfiable formulas. These are formulas for which there is at least one valuation that makes the formula true. So, it is not the case that for any valuation it will be true, but you can find at least one valuation that will make it true. And if you have heard of the well known problem called SAT, which is on which the whole complexity theory is based, the SAT problem simply says that you are given a propositional formula and you want to find a valuation which will make it true essentially. So, is that formula satisfiable, and that SAT is just a short form for satisfiable essentially, and it is a big industry in itself, to writing programs to find satisfiable formula, to find out whether a formula is satisfiable or not. Listen. Now, obviously, tautologies are satisfiable, because in fact, you choose any valuation and the tautology would be true. What satisfiable formulas are saying, that you can find at least one valuation for which the formula will be true. So, clearly, the set of satisfiable formulas will be a proper superset of the set of tautologies. So, here it is shown in the rectangle. The rectangle is a set of satisfiable formulas, that something which looks close to a semicircle is a set of tautologies. Now, that leaves the third kind of formulas, which are called contradictions. These are formulas which are false for every valuation that you can think of. You choose whatever you want to think of, and this formula will turn out to be false essentially. So, just look at these two sets, the satisfiable set and the set of contradictions. These are called also unsatisfiable formulas. So, the set of satisfiable and set of unsatisfiable formulas, they are basically disjoint essentially. You can see that if something belongs to unsatisfiable, that means there is no valuation which will make it true. So, it can't be part of the satisfiable formula, and conversely, if something is satisfiable, which means that there is at least one valuation which makes it true, then it cannot be the set of unsatisfiable formulas. So, these two are disjoint sets essentially, and that is what we have shown here essentially. So, these are the three kind of formulas that you can construct with using propositional logic and other logics also as well. Now, it is an interesting point, you should spend some time and think over this. As to, we have these three sets, we have the set of satisfiable formulas, we have the set of tautologies, and we have the set of unsatisfiable formulas. So, let us say we have given them these names, this S, U and T essentially. How do we compare which set has more formulas than the others essentially? So, first of course, we should remember, and this is something that you should think about, because we are going to be talking about infinite sets. So, the set of tautologies is infinite. We say that P or not P is a tautology. So, if P or not P is a tautology and Q or not Q is a tautology, then you put them together also, it will also always be true essentially. Then we have looked at Frege's axioms, this is one of them, or this is an instance of one of them, and that we know is a tautology essentially. And in general, if alpha is a tautology and beta is a tautology, then you just take any, not any, you take for example, the OR connection, and then that will be a tautology essentially. So, you can keep growing the set of tautologies, and it is going to be an infinite set. So, use a set of unsatisfiable formulas, and there is a very simple relation, as you can observe, that if alpha belongs to the set of tautologies, which means all valuations make it true, then not alpha will belong to the set of unsatisfiable formulas. That means, no valuation makes it true essentially. So, if all valuations make alpha true, then all those valuations will also make not alpha false essentially. So, not alpha, so alpha would be, not alpha would be unsatisfiable. Of course, the simplest unsatisfiable formula that we know is P and not P. If P is true, then this formula is false. If P is false also, this formula is false. There are only two valuations for P, and both make it false essentially. But the interesting thing is that there is a one-to-one correspondence between the set of formulas and a set of unsatisfiable formulas. So, for every satisfiable formula, there is a corresponding unsatisfiable formula and vice versa. So, that is why I have tried to draw those two sets as equal in size, though they are infinite sets, and it does not pay to try to compare infinite sets and try to visualize if one of them is bigger than the other. So, things really become interesting when we talk about the satisfiable formulas. So, is this set of satisfiable formulas larger than this? We know of course, from the diagram that we drew, that it is a proper superset of the set of tautologies essentially. Because there are formulas which are not tautologies, but for which there may be some satisfying valuation, So, those will not be in the set of tautologies, but they will be here. So, they will be lying somewhere here essentially. Now, for every formula in the tautology, it is true that it is also satisfiable, because that is the definition of being a subset anyway essentially. For every alpha which is a tautology, we can find a beta such that alpha and beta is satisfiable, but alpha and beta is not a tautology. How can we do that? So, supposing we have taken this formula which is a tautology. So, we can say that okay, I have this formula P or not P and Q, okay, a simple formula, but you can see that this formula belongs to the set of satisfiable formulas, but this formula does not belong to the set of satisfiable formula or tautologies. It does not belong to the set of tautologies. So, for every alpha which is a tautology, for example, we saw P or not P, we can produce a beta in this example Q such that alpha and beta belongs to the set of satisfiable formula. Obviously, this will be true whenever Q is true, but it is not a tautology, because when Q is false, this whole formula becomes false. So, that is one thing. But what is quite intriguing is that for every formula which is a satisfiable formula, it is true that we can find a formula which is a tautology. So, there is a mapping from the set of satisfiable formulas to the set of tautologies. For you show me a satisfiable formula and I will show you a tautology, or I will just simply take the two formulas and if you give me alpha, I will just say that alpha or not alpha is going to be a tautology which is true essentially. So, it is a point to ponder about. On the one hand, we are saying that the set of satisfiable formula is a proper superset of the set of tautologies. On the other hand, we are saying that for every element in satisfiable formulas, every formula in satisfiable set, I can show you one formula in. So, there is also a mapping essentially. So, that is why dealing with thinking about infinite sets is a bit of a problem at times. The simplest example that comes to mind is if you are trying to compare the set of, for example, integers and natural numbers essentially. Clearly, one of them is a proper set of the others, but you can always find a mapping essentially. When we talk about semantics, we also talk about meaning essentially. So, we will just define the semantics and then we will move from there. As we said, the meaning, you have a set of symbols and it stands for something that is only in your head essentially. So, here is a small knowledge base that we will work with, expressed in English, we will convert it into propositional logic, and it is about this girl Alice, maybe she is from Wonderland, but anyway, it is about this Alice, and it says Alice likes mathematics and she likes stories. We will break this down into two separate propositions and we will use the and connective to represent it essentially. Then we say if she likes mathematics, she likes algebra. That is because algebra is a part of mathematics. If she likes algebra and likes physics, then she will go to college. Then we are saying she does not like stories or she likes physics. and we are finally saying that she does not like chemistry and history. I am sure you know people like that. What is the encoding we are doing? So, as I said, the first we will let P stands for Alice likes mathematics, Q stands for Alice likes stories, R stands for Alice likes algebra, S stands for Alice likes physics, T stands for Alice will go to college, U stands for Alice likes chemistry, and V stands for Alice likes history. So, we are just taking some random propositions and saying that this is what each of them stands for, but basically this will pertain to the story that we are talking about. Then the facts that are given here, this whole story that we are, or this knowledge base that we are talking about, is equivalent to this essentially. We have reduced it to propositional logic. So, you can see that each of them comes from the original knowledge base itself. P and Q stands for Alice likes mathematics and she likes story. P implies R stands for if she likes mathematics, then she likes algebra. Then R and S is what? If she likes algebra and she likes physics. So, R is algebra, S is physics, then she will go to college. Then we have said this stands for she will go to college. And she does not like stories or she likes physics. So, does not like stories or she likes physics. Remember that this is the inclusive or, this is not the exclusive or. And finally, we said that she does not like chemistry and she does not like history. So, we just said it as two statements, not of U, which is for does not like chemistry, and not of V, she does not like history. So, this is given to us. Okay. So, you do not have to question it, these are the premises that are given to you. The question that we will want to ask is that if this is given, then what else is true? In particular, we will ask the question that will she go to college, will Alice go to college, but we will do that in the next video after you have digested all this stuff. Okay, see you in the next one.